welcome to Open. So our last guest is a classical singer, actor, librettist, composer, and author whose professional life in music began in 2004 after a successful audition jump-started their career with the opportunity to sing with the Choir Academy of Harlem at the Summer Music Institute at Skidmore College and at Madison Square Garden. Well, throughout their years and education, they listened intently to their instrument, and their voice began to further shift in a higher direction and vocally transitioned to their soprano and treble roots. And recent engagements include recitals, orchestral, and chamber appearances with Harlem Opera Theater, the Grace Chorale of Brooklyn, the ensemble cast of New York City Opera, and much more. Everyone, please welcome classical singer, actor, and composer Jay St Flono. Hello, and
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Congratulations
Thank you.
on this, I want to say rebirth, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you've always been a singer.
Always.
Always. And from what I understand and what I've read, it was during the great pause, which we were discussing off
Yeah.
camera. I love the language. We're talking about the pandemic, mi gente, right? That you were able to reflect and expand on what you already had.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about that.
Yes. The great pause was.
I love that language. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes. I mean, literally everything stopped, and our world has changed significantly, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse in many ways. But during the lockdown, all of my colleagues were having their performances canceled left and right. And I was sitting at home with my two best girlfriends and our cat. We had just moved into our own place together, me and my two friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually my first place after leaving my parents' house. And so I was officially like on my own for the first time, literally into a
Right, pre-pandemic.
right,
Pre-pandemic.
yeah. And
Uh-huh.
sitting at home, I originally trained as a tenor. I went to Manor School of Music in the Village, located in the Village, originally on the Upper West Side. I trained as a tenor for a few years, and it was a good run, but I had this whole other, I guess, dimension to my voice that
Right.
was much, much higher and had always been there since I was very, very young. I started out in the Choir Academy of Harlem as a voice soprano, and I didn't really ever experience a noticeable voice break even during puberty. It was, I was able to sing soprano and alto parts even in church.
Right.
So it was
Right. I had read somewhere you were like mezzo soprano, right?
yeah.
And then just out of curiosity, like how does one elevate their voice? Is that through exercises? Like just share how that happens because, we're talking extremes.
Yeah, extremes, but also
Well, I'm not talking about the mezzo soprano. I'm talking about the alto to then going.
yes, it is extremes, but I mean, I also come from a gospel background, and although I was studying classical music in school, in in gospel music, the vocal categories can be a bit more ambidextrous.
Okay.
So I grew up hearing countertenors and male singers with very, very high voices, and it wasn't a strange thing. So being able to use the falsetto properly was something I'd always had in my ear.
All right.
But what happened with me was that singing in my lower register just became more and more uncomfortable. And then I spoke with my voice teacher, Corey Jennings, and she's a mezzo soprano, and she said, we're going to work on this for the next 6 months. And then after the 6 months period, she said, yes, this is where you should have been singing for the majority of the time when you were in school. But, you have to kind of go through different changes, but it turned out to be great.
Plus transitions, right?
Yeah.
Like puberty and all of that.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Right.
So she said it took you a while to find out where you really were supposed to be, where like the meat and the core of where your vocal power lies. And she said, it just happens that it lies in the soprano register, and that's what you need to sing. And as soon as I did that and I started shifting, that's actually when people started calling me and hiring me. I I started experiencing more success
Right.
singing in the high register.
Right.
Almost instantaneously.
Right, because it was organic for you. Like, it was truly where you were meant to be.
Truly where I was meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're singing opera now. I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
Headlining, no less. That's a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the first, as soon as the lockdown ended, the first performance I did, coming out of the house, playing The Sims all day, and just kind of waiting for things to.
Well, at least you were still training.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I know we can giggle because listen, it was something to even get dressed during those days.
It
right?
was.
I was the captain queen.
Wonderful. Same.
I was the captain
Just
queen.
running around the house in caftans and I would have voice lessons every week through Zoom, so I was able to keep my instrument fresh and to remain musically active even though I wasn't performing. But the first performance I did coming out of the lockdown was with the Pierre Moss fashion group for Paris Couture Fashion Week in the summer. And we performed at Madam C.J. Walker's mansion for a show. And then right after that...
okay, so wait. No, let's just sit there for a minute.
Yes.
Like, that happened during the pandemic?
The summer of 2021. So things...
So as we were coming out of it. Right, what we call post.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
Even though we're technically still in post-pandemic. But, okay, go ahead.
So, yes,
I'm just visualizing, like, your steps.
Summer 2021, I was singing with Pierre Moss for Couture Fashion Week, and we were doing a set, and they said, Jay, why don't you actually let's add a soprano part in here. And then I did that, and they were like, yeah, this is where you're going to be singing forever. And then as soon as that ended, the first major performance was at the Park Avenue Armory with choreographer Bill T. Jones for the premiere of his show called Deep Blue Sea. And it was myself and 4 other singers, and I did the soprano parts in that entire production, and that lasted for like at least 2 months of everyday rehearsals.
Amazing.
It was very, very, very intense. I was very intimidated, but I still stepped up and did it, and
Well, I would be intimidated working alongside Bill T. Jones myself.
It was the first time I had been in proximity to an artist of that caliber, who wasn't necessarily involved in music explicitly. Right,
because he's primarily known as a choreographer and dancer.
But his vision and his mind and the way that he approached all the elements of the production, the way he challenged me to challenge myself was actually one of the best performance experiences I've ever had.
I bet, because I'm sure you were placed in the position to have to match it, right? Like, you were placed in that position to have to match it.
I had to match it.
And so that, I'm sure, only enhanced your presentation as well as your confidence, right? Stepping into this rebirth of rediscovering your abilities.
Yes.
Right? And so now you're working, being presented, I should say, by the Bronx Arts Ensemble, which is one of the prestigious organizations here in the Bronx. Now, talk to me about how that happened.
That happened by happy accident. I was doing a performance with a group that I sing with called the Unsung Collective. And, we performed at Lincoln Center and other different places, but we did a Bach Magnificat in the fall of 2022. And I was in the chorus, and I met a bassoonist there named Alex Davis, who runs the chamber ensemble called Sugar Hill Salon. And then he introduced me to Judith Insel of the Bronx Arts Ensemble, who came to our concert last spring. And immediately she said, we would love to, present you in recital with Bronx Arts Ensemble. And it really is kind of like a chain reaction. I kept meeting people, and I was meeting people who were in organizations that I had never actually had not worked with directly. So it's a lot of new experiences.
I would
sort
imagine
of coming.
it is, because you're coming in with this kind of you're innovating it. It really,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
what was that like? Just performing for like the LGBTQI community?
It was wonderful, and I don't often get to do that. Not in that explicit way.
Right.
You know, you know, our community is everywhere. We're in government. We're in arts. We're in sciences. We're in tech. We're in all these different places. But to actually perform in an organization that is dedicated and committed to the elevation of our humanity was wonderful. It was wonderful. It felt like, I guess coming home, in a sense.
Yes.
And
Yes.
being accepted and not having to apologize or come up with some sort
Or
of
have to feel like you're proving yourself.
Proving myself.
Really is what it boils down to. And I asked that because here you are, you're going to go perform in a church.
yeah.
And so that was like your preparation for like just continuing on this path of innovating and just pretty much representing what our world looks like now.
Yeah.
Well, the way it's always looked,
Always
but the
been.
way it should be embraced is really what I'm alluding to.
And doing the performance in a church, was never strange. I'm a preacher's kid.
Right.
We're from the South, and I grew up in the Baptist church, so I've been performing in church and singing since I was about 2.
Right.
And my mother was a classically trained singer, and so that's where I get it from.
Right.
But to kind of reclaim space
Right.
in a church environment in my full self without having to hide anything and be accepted for all of my gifts is another dimension that has actually made the practice of performing even more emotional.
Yeah.
Even more emotional. And even now today I have a church job at the James United Methodist Church. I'm the section leader for the alto section, and it's so surreal being in that environment and not having to apologize.
Yes.
And being accepted. If you would have asked me when I was 16 if I thought that this is what my life would look like, I would have said, you're insane.
Right.
But I'm doing it now in my 30s, and I'm like, oh, it is possible. Things have changed. This is...
Just because you brought it up, I want to know who you are today versus who you were when you were 16 and what that feels like for you to be able to perform unapologetically.
It's cathartic. It's really it's very healing. When I look at my life, it's funny, it from the age of 16 and then fast forward 16 years, that 16-year period between 16 and then my early 30s, it was preparation. And I had to go through numerous ups and downs trying to figure out my way, being in a classical music conservatory, feeling the need to conform to, traditional expressions of masculinity in both presentation and in voice, and auditioning here and there and trying so hard to be accepted. The acceptance that I craved, the best kind was the one when I actually accepted myself.
Right.
And then everyone else saw the light that was pouring out of me, and they said, oh my God, this is you. And I said, yeah. This is me.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, if I would look at 16-year-old me who was singing in church and writing stories, and, my best friend was my English teacher, if I would look at that person, I would say, just wait. Just wait and see, and keep working.
Thank you for sharing that. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
And so deeply felt.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm sure you're touching somebody who needs to hear this right now.
I pray so.
Yeah. And the beauty is that you guys are going to be able to experience what we were just discussing. But before we go, let's share where you're going to be performing and what date you're going to be performing.
Christchurch, Riverdale, February 25th at 3 p.m. It's a vocal recital. Jay St Flono in recital is the title. And my pianist is my friend and colleague, Edward Callahan. And we're doing the recital is about lost love and spiritual passion. So I'll be performing music from 1607 up until 2020. That's the time span of the music I'll be doing. Purcell, some pieces in English, pieces in Italian, German, and the second half of the program, I'll be doing some spirituals and arias by African American composers.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Taking us around the globe, no less.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, we're not going to get all of that here in the show, but we're going to give you a taste of it. So don't go anywhere, because when we return, Jay St Flono will be performing for us after the break, and you don't want to miss. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. We are taking you to the opera today. Here now to perform Amarilli Mia Bella. Let's give it up for Jay St Flono.
Scritto in core Amarilli, 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 il mio amore. Credilo pur, e se timor t'assale, dubitar non ti vale. Aprimi il petto e vedrai scritto in core Amarilli, 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 il mio amore.
Oh my gosh, I'm so delayed. I'm so delayed. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much for
you.
blessing us with that phenomenal voice. Everyone, Jay St Flono. Oh my gosh, I was in a daze over there just taking this in. This is how we are concluding our Friday once again. Classical singer, actor, and composer Jay St Flono. Bronx Arts Ensemble presents the multi-talented Jay St Flono in recital on Sunday, February 25th at 3 p.m. at the Christ Church, Riverdale, located on 5040 Henry Hudson Parkway East in the Bronx, New York. And for more information on tickets and upcoming events, you can visit the Bronx Arts Ensemble, and you can also visit BronxArtsEnsemble.com. And for more on Jay, you can check them out on Instagram at Jay St Flono. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out this episode throughout the weekend and 24 hours a day at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rena Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. Happy Black History Month, mi gente.